Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Dr. Haifaa Younis. This message is spoken directly to you from a place of gratitude, admiration, and deep respect because your voice has become a light for so many hearts searching for a way back to Allah in the quietest hours of the night. Through your sincerity, your gentleness, and your unwavering dedication to teaching the beauty of this deen, you have transformed the way thousands of us understand Tahajjud not as a difficult ritual reserved for the righteous, but as an invitation, a mercy, a private meeting with our Lord that every soul is worthy of attending. You taught us that the night prayer is not about perfection but presence, not about long recitations but a longing heart. And every time you spoke about those sacred moments before Fajr, it felt as if you were unlocking a door that many of us never knew how to open. Because of your reminders, many now fall asleep with intention, wake with softness, and stand with hearts trembling in front of Allah, discovering a peace they didn't know was missing. Tonight, this entire script is a dedication to you, your teachings, your wisdom, and the way Allah has used your words to heal, uplift, and reconnect people with the one who never turns away. And as we share the 7 powerful lessons inspired by your guidance on how to perform tahajjud correctly, we do so with the hope that this video becomes a small reflection of the immense impact you continue to have on the Ummah and a heartfelt thank you for being a source of light in a world desperately in need of reminders that pull us closer to our Creator. Dr. Haifaa Younis, you taught us that the true beginning of tahajjud doesn't happen when we rise at night. It begins much earlier, silently, softly, inside the heart, where sincerity takes its first breath and where longing for Allah starts to bloom. You reminded us that intention is the engine that carries us into the last third of the night, that a single whisper before sleep, Ya Allah, allow me to stand before you, is recorded by angels even if our bodies fail to rise, and that Allah, in His infinite mercy, rewards the efforts long before the act is complete. You made us understand that the intention for tahajjud is not simply a thought, but a declaration of love, a personal invitation to Allah saying, I want to meet you when the world sleeps. And through your teachings, we learned that intention purifies the heart, strengthens the will, and transforms this prayer from a duty into a private conversation, from an obligation into a yearning. For when a believer intends tahajjud, they are already stepping into closeness with Allah, already walking toward His light, already being written among those who seek Him with sincerity. You showed us that the path to tahajjud begins not with alarm clocks or routines, but with a heart that genuinely wants Allah, a heart that whispers its weakness yet still chooses to try. And that intention alone can change the spiritual direction of a person's life. Dr. Haifaa Younis, you taught us that tahajjud is not a moment we stumble into at night. It is a journey that begins the moment our day starts, because the heart that desires to stand before Allah at night must first protect itself during the hours of sunlight. You reminded us that if our tongues are careless, our eyes distracted, our hearts heavy with sins, and our schedules overflowing with noise, the weight of the night will naturally overwhelm us. But when we guard our speech, restrain our distractions, and walk through the day with mindfulness, the soul becomes lighter, more receptive, more drawn to the stillness that awaits in the last third of the night. You taught us that going to bed early is not just rest, it becomes worship when the intention behind it is meeting Allah. That avoiding unnecessary sins is not about deprivation, but about clearing the path to a softer heart. That a calm, controlled daytime routine makes the nighttime prayer easier, sweeter, and more natural. And through your guidance, we realize that tahajjud begins when we choose what we consume, how we speak, how we treat others, and how we manage our energy for a heart cluttered with worldly chaos. rarely finds the strength to rise at night. You helped us understand that preparation is spiritual, emotional, and practical, managing sleep, calming the mind, guarding the heart, and nurturing our relationship with Allah all day long so that when the night arrives, the soul is already halfway there. You showed us that tahajjud is not just a prayer, it is a lifestyle cultivated through daytime habits that pave the way for nighttime intimacy with Allah. Dr. Haifaa Younis, you taught us that the moment of waking for tahajjud is not meant to be harsh or rushed, but a tender transition from the world of sleep to the presence of Allah, a moment where the soul slowly rises before the body does, carried by His mercy and drawn by His invitation. You reminded us that when the alarm rings or the eyes naturally open, we should wake with softness, not stress, no rushing, no frustration, no guilt. If we feel tired, but with a peaceful whisper of Alhamdulillah Alladhi Ahyana, acknowledging that Allah has gifted us life once again and chosen us to stand before Him when countless others continue to sleep. You taught us that these first few seconds set the emotional tone for the entire prayer, washing the face with cool water to refresh the heart, making wudu with mindfulness, and allowing the silence of the night to wrap around us like a gentle reminder that this is an intimate meeting, not a performance. You showed us that waking for tahajjud is less about discipline and more about love, about responding to a call from the one who never forgets us, about stepping into a moment designed exclusively for us and our Creator. And through your guidance, we learned that this gentle awakening builds a deeper spiritual presence, a focus that cannot be achieved through rushing or force, because when the heart wakes before the body, the rest of the night flows naturally, beautifully, and with a tranquility that only those who taste it truly understand. Dr. Haifaa Younis, you taught us one of the most comforting truths about tahajjud, that its beauty is found not in rigid numbers or strict formulas, but in its flexibility, mercy, and accessibility to every believer, regardless of their level, their schedule, or the weight they carry on their shoulders. You reminded us that the Prophet, peace be upon him, prayed different numbers of rakats on different nights, sometimes 8, sometimes less, and that the night prayer was never meant to be something that overwhelms the soul or discourages the beginner. Instead, you showed us that tahajjud invites every person exactly as they are. You emphasized again and again that even two simple rak'ahs prayed with sincerity can outweigh the longest prayers prayed without presence, and that Allah's mercy encompasses those who rise for a single moment in the night just as generously as it embraces those who stand for hours. You taught us that the minimum for tahajjud is not a number, it is simply the act of showing up. That whether a person prays 2, 4, 6, 8, or more rakahs, the doors of the night remain open, welcoming and filled with divine softness. You often say, just start with 2, and those words have removed the weight of guilt from so many hearts that felt unworthy or incapable, replacing that heaviness with hope, confidence, and a renewed desire to keep trying. You reminded us that the night prayer can be long or short, silent or whispered, recited with strength or with trembling exhaustion, because Allah looks at the heart behind the prayer, not the length of the standing. You taught us that witr is the closure, the seal, the final intimate moment before Fajr, and that whether prayed as 1 rak'ah or 3 or more, it completes the night with spiritual elegance. And through your guidance, we learned that tahajjud is not about numbers, but about nearness, not about structure, but about sincerity, not about impressive rituals, but about honest connection. You made us understand that every believer has their own capacity, their own rhythm, their own spiritual pace, and that Allah honors effort over perfection, longing over ability, and consistency over quantity. Because of you, countless hearts Now rise without fear of failing or not doing enough, knowing deeply that Allah accepts the smallest step taken toward Him in the night. And through your gentle teaching, you transform tahajjud from a source of anxiety into a source of comfort, from a challenge into a privilege, from a burden into a breathtaking opportunity to meet Allah with whatever strength, time, and sincerity we have. Dr. Haifaa Younis, you taught us that tahajjud is not merely a time to perform physical movements or complete ritual obligations, but a sacred space where the heart and soul engage in an intimate, living dialogue with Allah through the recitation of the Qur'an, and that every word we utter in the stillness of the night carries weight far beyond what the world can measure. You reminded us that the Prophet, peace be upon him, often stood for long hours reciting the Quran with presence, reflection, and trembling, and that what makes Tahajjud unique is this profound opportunity to let the words of Allah speak directly to us, to reach into the hidden corners of our hearts, and to awaken the soul in ways daytime prayers rarely can. Because of your guidance, we understand that recitation at night is not a performance or a race to complete chapters, but a sacred conversation where meanings are contemplated, emotions are felt, and intentions are purified. It is an opportunity to let the Quran penetrate our deepest struggles, fears, and hopes, transforming the prayer from mechanical repetition into living connection. You taught us that this is the moment to pause, breathe, and allow every verse to touch the heart in a way that it touches the mind as well, so that the Quran does not remain external words but becomes internal guidance, a source of clarity, solace, and strength. You emphasize that whether we recite long passages, short chapters, or even a few lines, the focus must be on understanding, reflection, and sincerity, because Allah listens not only to our words, but to the intention and presence behind them. And that even the simplest recitation, when accompanied by genuine attention and humility, can produce a transformation that echoes throughout our day, our character, and our soul. You reminded us that the Quran is alive in the night. It speaks to those who listen, whispers guidance to those who reflect, and nourishes the hearts of those who seek closeness to Allah, and that this connection is personal, intimate, and profoundly restorative. Dr. Haifa, your teachings made us realize that it is not about the length of what we recite or the perfection of our pronunciation, but about the depth of presence and the yearning of the heart, and that when we recite with awareness, every verse becomes a dua, every word becomes a bridge, and every pause becomes a moment to feel Allah's nearness. You showed us that this practice reshapes our relationship with the Quran itself, turning it from a book we read or memorize into a companion that speaks, comforts, and guides, and that the night becomes a sanctuary where the language of revelation meets the language of the heart. Because of you, countless believers now approach Tahajjud with reverence and expectation, understanding that the recitation is not a duty but a privilege, a rare, unparalleled opportunity to converse with the Creator, to unload the burdens of the heart, and to seek answers, guidance, and peace in the most sacred hours when Allah's mercy descends and His listening presence is closest. You reminded us that this conversation is both gentle and powerful, private yet transformative, and that the night prayer can awaken courage, remove confusion, illuminate paths, and bring clarity to life's challenges in a way no other prayer can achieve. And through your guidance, we have learned to honor every pause, every reflection, every heartfelt sigh during recitation, understanding that tahajjud is a living dialogue, a personal encounter, and a direct path to drawing near to Allah, where the Quran is not only recited, but listened to, absorbed, and allowed to change us from within. In teaching us to approach tahajjud this way, You have given us the tools to transform our nights into sanctuaries of reflection, our recitation into a dialogue of the heart, and our connection with Allah into a deeply personal, transformative, and eternal relationship that continues to illuminate our days, strengthen our faith, and heal our hearts long after the prayer ends. Dr. Haifaa Younis, you taught us that the essence of tahajjud is not just standing in prayer, bowing, or prostrating, but the sacred, heart stirring moments of dua where the believer's soul speaks directly to Allah in complete vulnerability, honesty, and hope. And that these moments are unlike any other time of supplication because they occur in the quietest, most intimate hours when the world is asleep and the heavens open in mercy for those who choose to turn to their Lord. You reminded us that Allah, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, descends to the lowest heaven during the last third of the night and asks, "Who is calling upon me that I may answer them? Who is asking forgiveness that I may forgive them?" And that this is the time when every longing, every hidden tear, every secret hope, and every silent plea is heard most profoundly. Because of your guidance, we understand that dua during tahajjud is transformative because it reshapes the heart, purifies the intentions, and creates a spiritual intimacy that no other act of worship can achieve. It is the moment when weaknesses are acknowledged without shame, when burdens are lifted without judgment, and when the believer experiences a sense of closeness to Allah that fills the heart with peace, reassurance, and unwavering trust. You taught us that there is no right or wrong in the words of dua. Every heartfelt plea, whether spoken in eloquence, whispered in broken language, or shed silently with tears, is accepted and cherished by Allah, and that the sincerity of the heart matters infinitely more than the beauty of the words. You showed us that in tahajjud, the dua is not just about asking for worldly needs, but about reshaping the inner life, seeking guidance, forgiveness, strength, patience, clarity, healing, and the light of Allah's presence. And that when a believer prays with such longing, their heart begins to align with the divine will, their soul gains resilience, and their life begins to transform in subtle yet profound ways that ripple into every aspect of existence. You emphasize that consistent dua in the night trains the heart to rely on Allah, nurtures sincerity, and deepens awareness that every outcome, every blessing, and every trial is within the divine wisdom, and that the act of turning repeatedly to Allah in these sacred hours is itself a form of purification, preparation, and elevation of the soul. Dr. Haifa, your words taught us that the transformative power of tahajjud dua is also found in its ability to heal emotional wounds, relieve anxieties, and illuminate paths that seem uncertain during the day, because the act of raising one's hands in devotion, whispering one's deepest fears and hopes, and trusting in Allah's response creates a profound inner peace that cannot be achieved elsewhere. You reminded us that these intimate conversations with Allah help believers confront themselves with honesty, acknowledge their mistakes, seek forgiveness, and cultivate gratitude, humility, and resilience, and that the night prayer becomes a mirror where the heart sees its flaws, hopes, and aspirations with clarity, and then entrusts them to the one who knows and controls all. You taught us that there is an unparalleled power in repetition, persistence, and patience in night supplications, because the consistent act of returning to Allah each night, even when weary or burdened, strengthens faith, fortifies trust, and deepens the relationship between the servant and the Creator in a way that no daytime activity, however noble, can achieve. You showed us that every tear shed, every whispered plea, and every silent longing is a step towards spiritual refinement, a purification of the soul, and an awakening of consciousness that transforms not only our nights, but also our days, decisions, and interactions. And that the transformative dua of tahajjud has the ability to change destinies, soften hearts, illuminate minds, and align lives with divine wisdom in ways that often remain unseen but are eternally impactful. You reminded us that the power of these du'as lies not only in receiving what we ask for, but in the act of asking itself. The humility, the recognition of dependence on Allah, and the surrender that strengthens the heart to endure challenges with patience and hope, and that every night spent in such dua gradually molds a believer into someone more aware, compassionate, resilient, and spiritually alive. Dr. Haifaa, because of your teachings, countless hearts now understand that Tahajjud dua is not a ritual to be performed, but a lifeline to be embraced, a sacred dialogue that transforms despair into hope, heaviness into lightness, confusion into clarity, and weakness into courage, and that its power lies in its ability to reach the soul, stir the heart, and bring the servant closer to Allah than they ever imagined possible. You made us see that no act of devotion can compare to these intimate hours, where the connection is direct, the presence is tangible, and the mercy is boundless, and that embracing this practice consistently creates a spiritual resilience, a clarity of purpose, and a love for Allah that permeates every action, thought, and moment of life. And so, through your guidance, we have learned to approach tahajjud not as a task to be completed, but as a sanctuary to enter, a dialogue to cherish, and a transformative journey where the heart, mind, and soul are all elevated, strengthened, and aligned with the will of Allah, creating a life infused with hope, closeness, and the enduring impact of a relationship nurtured in the quietest, most sacred hours of the night. Dr. Haifaa Younis, you taught us that the ultimate gift of tahajjud is not merely the act of standing in prayer during the quiet hours of the night, nor the physical prostrations or the recitations, but the profound illumination and strengthening of the heart that occurs when a believer sincerely turns to Allah with longing, humility, and trust, and that this illumination is subtle yet transformative, gradually reshaping the way a person experiences life, perceives challenges, and connects with their Creator. You reminded us that the heart of a person who rises for tahajjud begins to glow with an inner light, a light that no worldly accomplishment can produce, a light that brightens their intentions, purifies their thoughts, and softens their actions, so that even ordinary moments of the day become infused with mindfulness, patience, and love for Allah. You showed us that this strengthening of the heart is not immediate or superficial, but a slow and steady transformation, built night by night, rakah by rakah, dua by dua, as the soul becomes more attuned to divine presence, more aware of Allah's mercy, and more resilient in the face of trials and hardships that once seemed unbearable. Dr. Haifaa, you taught us that through consistent tahajjud, the heart develops courage and fortitude, because standing alone in the stillness of the night and conversing with Allah instills a confidence that no fear, stress, or worldly pressure can shake. The believer learns that their worth is not determined by others, nor by circumstances, but by their closeness to Allah and their commitment to seeking Him sincerely. You reminded us that this illumination also brings clarity, as the heart becomes a mirror reflecting the truth of life, allowing the believer to distinguish between fleeting desires and lasting values, between illusions of comfort and the real treasures of faith, and between distractions and the call of Allah that gently yet persistently invites the soul to rise above mediocrity and seek excellence in character, worship, and compassion. You taught us that the heart strengthened through tahajjud learns humility, because every rak'ah, every bow, every prostration is a reminder of human dependence on the Almighty, a humbling acknowledgement that without Allah the heart cannot find true peace, guidance, or purpose, and that in this humility the heart becomes a vessel for love, gratitude, and sincerity that flows naturally into actions, decisions, and relationships with others. Dr. Haifa, your teachings reveal to us that tahajjud is also a source of emotional healing, as the quiet moments allow suppressed fears, anxieties, and grief to surface and be placed in Allah's hands, transforming despair into hope, heaviness into relief, and confusion into clarity, so that the believer not only strengthens spiritually but also emotionally, mentally, and morally, creating a heart that is resilient, balanced, and anchored in divine wisdom. You showed us that the strengthened heart is reflective and compassionate, able to forgive, empathize, and act with wisdom and justice, because Tahajjud teaches the believer to confront their own shortcomings, recognize the fragility of life, and seek Allah's guidance in every aspect of existence, making the heart a source of light, guidance, and comfort for others, not just for oneself. You reminded us that this transformation is holistic, affecting every part of life: relationships, work, decision making, patience during trials, gratitude in ease, and steadfastness in adversity, and that the heart illuminated by tahajjud carries a calmness and serenity that becomes noticeable to everyone around, radiating peace and reassurance without words. Dr. Haifa, you emphasize that this strengthening is not temporary or superficial but enduring, because the night prayers instill habits of sincerity, consistency, and mindfulness that shape the soul over time, making it capable of withstanding tests, maintaining hope in hardship, and remaining connected to Allah regardless of external circumstances. You taught us that the heart strengthened through tahajjud becomes a sanctuary where dua, reflection, gratitude, and remembrance are safe and flourishing, a place where the believer retreats in moments of difficulty to find guidance, courage, and solace, and that this inner sanctuary allows the light of Allah to guide not only their own path but also to inspire and uplift others through their presence, words, and actions. You reminded us that tahajjud is both a shield and a beacon, a shield that protects the heart from despair, anger, and worldly corruption, and a beacon that illuminates the soul, showing the way to righteousness, patience, love, and steadfastness, and that every night spent in sincere prayer contributes to this inner fortification and spiritual illumination in a manner that compounds over time, creating a heart that is strong yet tender, focused yet compassionate, humble yet confident in Allah's mercy, and deeply attuned to His guidance. Dr. Haifa, your guidance has shown us that the ultimate beauty of tahajjud lies not in counting rak'ahs or hours, but in witnessing the transformation of the heart itself, in feeling the soul's awakening, and in experiencing a closeness to Allah that reshapes every thought, decision, and feeling, creating a life filled with purpose, peace, and unwavering connection, and that this illumination and strengthening of the heart is the true reward, the real miracle, and the most precious gift of standing in the night, bowing, prostrating, and raising one's hands in heartfelt dua before the one who knows, hears, and loves his servants beyond measure. Dr. Haifaa Younis, as we reach the end of this journey through the 7 powerful lessons of tahajjud, we want to pause and say from the depths of our hearts, thank you. Thank you for reminding us that the night is not empty, that the quiet hours are filled with mercy, and that every heart that rises sincerely, even once, is seen, loved, and embraced by Allah. You have taught us that tahajjud is not about perfection, numbers, or worldly accomplishment. It is about presence, longing, humility, and sincere connection with our Creator. Through your guidance, we have learned to set our intentions, prepare our hearts during the day, wake with gentleness, pray with sincerity, recite the Quran as a heartfelt conversation, pour out or choose in dua, and allow the night prayer to illuminate and strengthen every corner of our being. Because of you, thousands of hearts now know the joy of standing before Allah when the world sleeps, the peace of whispering our deepest secrets in His ear, and the transformative power that only the night can hold. May Allah reward you abundantly for every life you have touched, every heart you have inspired, and every soul you have guided toward His mercy, and may He continue to grant you wisdom, health, barakah, and endless blessings for your tireless efforts. And for all of us, may these lessons be a spark that turns into a lifelong habit, a source of light that brightens our nights and days, and a reminder that no matter our struggles, no matter our imperfections, Allah's door is always open, His mercy always near, and His love always waiting for hearts that rise sincerely in the stillness of the night.